Howdy folks, Nathan here with a 2022 Toyota Sienna hybrid all-wheel drive. As a matter of fact, Sienna's only come as hybrids now. All-wheel drive is an option, and it's a special all-wheel drive system. And you may have noticed, it is wintertime here in Colorado. There's a lot of snow and ice, and that is exactly what we want to test. This is the ultimate family mover. Now, is it the ultimate all-weather family mover? That's what we're gonna find out, because I'm gonna hoon in this snow. Now, recently we did do a full review on a very similar model to this, an XSE. This is also an XSE that had all-wheel drive, but that was a full review. This is a little bit different because I wanna talk about its all-wheel drive system. It's unique and it's effective. The question is, how effective is it? Now follow me, I wanted to show you something. Now first of all, under the hood, you have a combined 245 horsepower power plant. That is 2 electric motors paired with a gas engine. With that, and with the all-wheel drive system in this, guys, it gets a combined 35 mpg. It's still kind of astonishing to me that a minivan could get mileage like that, especially one that has all-wheel drive. Let me put it to you this way. The only other minivan that's out there that has an all-wheel drive option gets a lot less gas mileage. It's far, far less, and that's the Chrysler Pacifica all-wheel drive. Oh, and if you're asking about the Chrysler Pacifica plug-in hybrid, which does get amazing mileage, they do not have an all-wheel drive version of that. Go figure. But I wanted to show you something. Now, first of all, this is a vehicle that doesn't have very good ground clearance. That's probably its biggest issue in snow. If you're going through high drifts, you're gonna have a hard time bouncing through it with roughly 6.4 inches of ground clearance. But considering the fact that this does have a 1.9 kilowatt hour battery, it's a nickel metal hydride battery, that's right about here, you can't tell the difference between it being all-wheel drive versus it being front-wheel drive. The reason why is because the rear wheels are powered by an electric motor, so it's separate from the electric motors that are up here. That electric motor actually goes to a mechanical gearbox that powers these wheels. Now, in the past, we've tested a variety of different vehicles that use Toyota's all-wheel drive. Those vehicles, that's also including the Toyota Prius all-wheel drive, they've all had various levels of success. The Prius actually uses a completely different electric motor in the back and has a very small amount of horsepower going to the rear wheels. It's very different here, totally different motor. And in this case, it's pretty powerful and it moves it very well. Not only that, but it's always on when you're moving at a slow speed, that it can disconnect itself and allow just the front wheels to pull you along for the most efficient form of driving. If it detects slippage at any point in time, it immediately puts power to the back. Now, what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to deactivate as many safety systems as I can. That's including, of course, traction control and stability control. And I'm going to see how this van performs when it's pushed way beyond its regular limits in this powder. I look like an idiot. All right. Now, you may be wondering why I shut the traction control off, because that's exactly what I did. The whole purpose of that is to get the rear end to really kick out so you guys can see that the all-wheel drive system is working. It also gives me an opportunity to say to the world, oh yeah, by the way, I'm doing donuts in a minivan. Which is kind of fun. This system is making me go regardless of what I'm doing. So in other words, yeah, okay, I'm doing this type of thing, it's silly, but if I really want to go in a direction with my foot down, it will go. And that's despite the fact that this has mediocre tires, honestly. Pretty damn good in the snow. And I actually had a little bit of fun in a minivan. Those words rarely go together. It's not a rally car, but you know what? it's doing really well. Now, I'm going to try it with traction control on. What should happen is that it should probably slow me down and not be very happy about donuts. Yep. Wow, it's not letting me do anything. It behaved. the way I wanted it to if it were a car. So does this all-wheel drive system perform remarkably well in the snow? Yes, and if you're an idiot like me and shut off the traction control system, it's even more entertaining. However, leave that system alone and simply let it do its thing, and it will be absolutely fine. As equipped, this vehicle could tow up to 3,500 pounds, which is competitive. However, if you get the factory tow hitch installed, that actually makes a little bit of a difference when it comes to your departure angle. So in other words, you'll have less ground clearance in the back, and you have to be careful when you're going through steep driveways or over this stuff. Acceleration is not too bad. I think 0 to 60 at sea level is well under 8 seconds. It really does help even up here to have a hybrid, because even though it's not turbocharged, and even though you lose power with your internal combustion engine up at high elevation, the electric motors kind of make up for that. So this thing still is spirited. It moves well. It's not the fastest, and it's not the most athletic. If you want that, you definitely look at the Honda. The Honda Odyssey is far more athletic than this vehicle. However, the Honda Odyssey does not have all-wheel drive. There are no options for that currently. And around corners, just regular corners that might be a little wet, I honestly would rather have this. Now, there are a couple issues, one of which has to do with getting into the vehicle. It does have the kick and door open system. I don't even know what, flip and kick and flip, whatever it's called. Not working. Why? Because the sensors are obscured by snow. So you have to do it a conventional way, and it still has power sliding doors. Now, we do have Jeff here. A couple things to know. Now, first of all, the interior itself, if you look, you can see that Jeff has plenty of space, and that seat does slide all the way forward and all the way back, and captain seats are an option on this vehicle. As it's set up, it has 33.5 cubic feet of cargo space in the back. That's with the rear seat up. And if you tumble everything forward and slide these up, you have a maximum 75.5 cubic feet of cargo space. Here's the problem. These seats do not fold into the floor, nor can they be removed. Now, I know there's videos out there of guys removing them. Really bad idea, because these actually have airbags right here, part of the seat. So that means you're disconnecting an airbag system. That is very dangerous to do. I do not recommend doing it. Second, even if you do remove these seats, you are still dealing with the fact that this setup is not as roomy as some other vehicles out there. Bottom line is that the Chrysler Pacifica, which has the fold and go seats, that's one of the more roomy vehicles. But as it is, the interior passenger space is excellent. I do fit in the third row. I've already done it before. Obviously, I fit here. Jeff likes to go back and forth. There you go. I like to smash him all the way up against the seat, so that way I can feel his paws on my neck. It's kind of a weird, freaky thing, but I kind of dig it. What about the competition? Well, it's pretty simple. There are only a few brands out there in the United States that really compete. Honda, well, they have the Odyssey. Great minivan. The most athletic, I would say, but only available with front-wheel drive. Then there's the new Kia Carnival, which really is a minivan, even though they want it to look like a crossover SUV. And the odd part about that is, even though it looks a lot like a crossover or an SUV, it doesn't have all-wheel drive as an option, which is kind of bananas. Then you have the Chrysler Pacifica. And that one's kind of a weird fish, because the Chrysler Pacifica, you can get front-wheel drive, the gas engine, a V6. You can get it with all-wheel drive. That's once again with the gas engine. Or you can get a plug-in hybrid. Now, the plug-in hybrid is super efficient, more efficient than this vehicle, but that vehicle is not available with all-wheel drive. So there are interesting choices out there. Personally speaking, I like the Pacifica's looks, and I think that the interior is a nicer place to be than this one. I think that the Honda Odyssey is more athletic to drive, definitely a little bit more rewarding, but at the same time, this has just so much more going for it in terms of a day-to-day driver up here in Colorado or any place where there's foul weather. Yeah, man, out of all the minivans that are out there, this would be the one I would buy. God, I can't believe I said that. I have the sticker right here And this van, which is the XSE model, which is one step below the top tier model, comes in, and this is after delivery, processing, and handling fee, $47,215. Now that is expensive, but if you look at other vehicles in the class that compete with it, with this trim, roughly, it's about the same. So in other words, the Pacifica, which is the only other minivan in the United States that currently has all-wheel drive as an option, if you get its roughly mid-level trim with the stuff that this has in it, you will have about, between $46,000 and $50,000. Is it worth it? This is one of the most logical minivans I've ever driven. And I'm not a big fan of minivans in terms of their driving dynamics, but in snow, dude, it was great. It was really good. If you put on proper all-season tires on this thing, not the ones that it has now, but better ones, this thing would be fantastic. Its only limiting issue is the fact that it has very low ground clearance. And guess what? Toyota is going to remedy that in the near future with a version of this van that is actually a little higher off the ground. And we'll talk about that in the future. Thank you so much for joining me for the Fast Lane Car. This is Nathan, living in the winter wonderland.